Good evening. Welcome back to Study with Me. So, I want to ask you something. Now, when you think about the library, what comes to mind? For a lot of students, especially online students, it's a building. It's shelves full of books and study tables, and maybe there's a coffee shop tucked in the corner. I don't know. And if you're taking classes online, it's really easy to think, well, that's nice for on campus students, but that's not for me. I can't go there. But that assumption could be costing you valuable time because the library isn't just a building you can access. It's a whole system of support and resources, and especially people who are specifically here to help you succeed in classes. So, yeah, that includes you, even if you've never set foot on campus. So, that's a myth that I just want to burst wide open. And tonight we're going to talk about what online students can actually access and how our academic databases work at the library because, spoiler alert, it's not just Google, it's actually better than Google, and how our librarians can help you navigate all of it without feeling lost or overwhelmed. I'm Loy from GCC's online learning team, and this is Study with Me. So I'm really excited to have Nicki Lerczak back with us tonight. If you were with us in the fall, we had a great time talking about a whole bunch of the things that the library offers online, and we also talked a little bit about AI at that time. So Nicki's one of our librarians here at GCC. She's helped many students online and on campus figure out what they need for their classes. So welcome back, Nicki. What's been happening with you since the last time you were with us?
Well, we've been busy down in the library. We're always putting up new displays and finding new services and looking at new resources. We're always taking webinars and all sorts of other fun things. We decorate the library every chance we get, so we do have pictures online of the library being weirdly decorated. You're always welcome to check out our pictures of the library. Other than that, keeping the place warm.
And student after student coming in and out?
Yes, lots of chat, lots of email, lots of lots.
Lots of lots. Well, thank you, and thank you for coming and being with us, because I love hearing about all the ways that the library helps students. And I'm glad you're here to help us walk through some of the questions that our online students are asking about the library. So I want to dive into some of our questions. And the first segment is talking about how the library is for online students too. So, the online students would assume the library is books and, you're not going to ship them a book through the internet. But are you?
Ship? No. Provide? Yes. That is what we do. So I usually joke when I see students in person, I talk about how they walked through or past all of the books in the library to get to the library classroom. But I say that is a drop in the bucket compared to what we have available online for students. Online is a sea of information compared to the small pond of books inside the building itself. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of articles available through the library's databases, and we point you to Google Scholar, we point to online books. There are many online book databases that we subscribe to, more all the time. So that's more of what we have is not in the building than is in the building.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And that's, it's interesting because when you talk about the physical books are just a drop in the bucket and there's this giant sea out there. I think one of the things that students forget is there is this giant sea out there, and maybe you can use Google to do a bit of search, but sometimes you get this ginormous tsunami of results back, and how do you sort through them?
That is a skill that needs to be learned in college. So I'm going to take this morning as an example. I met online through Zoom with a student today because that is a service the library offers. You can make an appointment with a librarian and we will Zoom with you and go over your assignment, look at your citations, talk about research. And so this particular student had been sent to me because she was including a website in her assignment, and the instructor said, please talk to a librarian about whether or not this is a college level appropriate for our assignment resource. And it wasn't a bad resource. It was not as bad as some I've seen. It wasn't covered in ads. It wasn't from Wikipedia. It was a decent enough source, but it had some problems for the assignment. So we talked about, how do we judge a good source? Where's a good place to find a good source? How do I know a source that's good when I see it? So I showed her, we walked through it. We talked about citation. So I have students all the time who are not sure if they found something good, and we're happy to walk through it with them and say, here's what you need to know to find the good stuff online. Because there is stuff. The web isn't completely, a sea of crap. It's occasionally there's some good stuff mixed in, diamonds in the rough. There we go.
We talk a lot in my classes about the Wikipedia rule. So Wikipedia is not a source.
No.
But
it's a doorway.
It's a doorway. Yeah, that's a good way to put it, because those links at the bottom of the Wikipedia articles, those are probably sources.
They are. They are the places where I will say, look, Wikipedia serves a purpose. My husband likes to make fun of me. You don't like Wikipedia. I do like Wikipedia, but I'm not writing papers. There's a difference, right? If I'm writing a paper, now Wikipedia is off the table as a source itself. But they have done all the hard work of gathering information and making pointers to all that information, and now you can go judge the information itself. And it's important to judge the information. I have seen Wikipedia articles where the source does not go where they say. It does not back up the quote that they included in the Wikipedia entry. So be careful. Just because it looks like, oh, it's got a source, that doesn't mean it's good either. We still have to evaluate. We still have to keep our common sense caps on.
Right. So one of the things that it took a long time for me to understand, and I know that there are many students who don't understand this, is how those online resource databases work. So the library here, we have a bunch of research databases, and they're all different, and they have different logins, and okay, please help.
I used to have a count of them. I used to say, I think we had 70 or so databases. We're probably down from 70, but yeah, they're a mix. We have all different kinds of databases. Some of them are very specific. So think of it as a mall. I know a mall might be a really hard metaphor for younger students, but I'm hoping some of you older online students are like, I remember malls. And a mall has very specific stores, right? There's a jewelry store. There's the Starbucks. You go to them. I don't go to the Starbucks to get jewelry. I don't go to the jewelry store to get coffee, right? You know that they're specific, and you go to them for a specific purpose. But there's the anchor stores. I could go to JCPenney's and I can find cookware and underpants, right? If it's a general database, it's going to cover lots of different topics. But if it's a very subject-specific database, it's best for those topics. We have a psych database. I can go in there and I can type in things, and no matter what I search, I can search cats. Even if I search cats, it's going to find me psychology-related articles about cats. So probably fear of cats, people who use cats as emotional support. Everything that comes out of there is going to be a psych, aspect to it. So
is my cat trying to murder me?
Exactly. Why do cats not like cucumbers? Are they afraid of cucumbers? But if I need a general topic, and I'm looking at you, English 101, you guys are usually all over the map in terms of I could write about anything. No topic is usually off the table for an English paper, in which case a nice big general database, and we have many of those, will be perfectly fine because they'll have everything you're looking for.
So when we want to get research, do you need to know up front which database you're looking in, or can you search, when you search on the library website, is it searching across the databases?
Okay, so we've got two things that go on the library's website. So if you can picture the library's website, or if you're going to go surf off to it now, there is a find search. There is the library Google, which is on the library's homepage, and it's a box, and it searches across a lot of our resources, but not all of our resources. And it does what I call lowest common denominator searching. So any of our databases that have cool extra special search tools, they're not getting used there. So this is just, throwing it against a wall to see what sticks. And most of what comes back through that search is very scholarly, which not all of our students need. So unless you're in an upper level psych or English or criminal justice, a lot of what comes back is going to be way more intense than you need. So it's not a bad place to start to see what's out there. It'll search our books, it'll search online books, it'll search articles. But our databases A to Z page has subject limits. So if I knew I'm in a criminal justice class, I can go to the databases page and I can select criminal justice, and we will pull out the subset of databases that are good for this topic. So you don't need to know what's good for criminal justice. Just ask that limit to, tell you, here's the grouping. The grouping is alphabetical. Once upon a time, we used to rank them so that best stuff came up to the top. We can't do that anymore. So now it's just an alphabetical list. But if you scroll down, read the descriptions, if there is a database that is specific to the topic, it will say so.
And that seems like a good time to start to pivot a little bit and to talk about something that the library does that I didn't know it does, and so helpful for so many students, which is course guides. So, course guides, we have them for some courses. We don't have them for all the courses, but a lot of courses. So can you tell us what a course guide is, and, why should a student use a course guide?
Well, to save yourself time. And I think we're all about saving ourselves time, right? If I don't have to spend 4 hours doing something, why would I? Unless I'm super nerdy and I'm really into 4 hours of research. When I have an instructor who says, look, I have this assignment, is it possible for the library to make a guide on it? Then what we're going to do is look at that assignment and say, okay, here's the best resources. Here's some good web resources. Here's the citation style you need to use. Here's a place to ask us questions. Here are maybe some specific books that you should know about. We will just pull it all into one place. I just recently made a guide for a criminal justice ethics assignment, and it was fascinating. I've pulled together search terms for all of the different topics on the assignment. So capital punishment was one of the topics, as you might imagine, with criminal justice. And I said, okay, well, here are the specific subjects that library databases prefer to list that under. So it's not just capital punishment, but there's a couple of suggestions. So I'm here to say, look, this saves you time. You have some idea what are the best words before you go in. I give you pointers to use that assignment and use the resources with that assignment. So it's both for an assignment level as well as for a course level. So any particular course, I might say, hey, for this course, you might want to know about these resources. They don't go with a specific assignment, but they are good for this course. So we have those different types of guides.
All right. And that sounds a lot easier than just like wading out into the ocean.
I would definitely recommend it. Put your water wings on. Don't just wander into the ocean. And if you don't know what water wings are, Google that.
All right. So there was something that we were talking about just before we sat down and started to record today, and that was options for students who might be in the state of New York, but not anywhere near our college. But maybe there's another SUNY that is near them.
Yep.
And I had some confusion about that based on some things that I had done. So I had actually managed to pick up a book at another SUNY and then was able to return it through GCC, so I didn't have to go back out there again, which was awesome. But can you just kind of briefly outline, so say a student's near, I don't know, SUNY Plattsburgh or something, what kind of options might that student have for library resources that are close to them?
Okay, so what we usually tell our students is that as a SUNY student, you have access to all of SUNY's resources, but that access is a little provisional depending on where you are and who's near you. So other community colleges will probably have rules similar to the way we do, which is to say that we will let people come in who are not necessarily GCC students. They might be a Brockport student or a Finger Lake student, but they live in Genesee County. And they want to borrow materials from us because they're closer to us than they are to the school that they're allied with. And that's fine because they live in the region that we support and that is affiliated with us. And so we will issue them a community patron card and they can borrow our materials. And they don't have to, buy an account with us or anything. It is not a thing they have to pay for. If you're near a 4-year, now the 4 years don't necessarily operate like a community college. So if you're by a Plattsburgh or a Potsdam, their rules might be a little different. You are probably welcome to come on campus, look at the books in the library, but whether or not you can borrow them and leave the library with them, that's a rule that college is going to make. So every rule is going to be a little different depending on where you are, where you might live. If you don't live in the right counties near the college that you live next to, that could be a problem. So it doesn't hurt. I would probably call before you go. Say, I'm a GCC student, but I live near you. What can I do in your library?
Right. What can I do in your library?
What can I borrow and use? Yeah, don't
Yes.
ask what can I do in your library. Bad question. All the usual library things and nothing more.
Well, one of the things, I have to say that, of all the people in the universe, I think librarians are the single most helpful. So,
We can't help ourselves. We can't help ourselves in being helpful. We like to.
I mean, you have all these books that are they're not inexpensive. I mean, it's certainly an investment.
Oh, goodness. Yeah.
And you care for the books and you lovingly repair the books, and then you just hand them willy-nilly out to people.
I've seen that meme going around.
Take them anywhere.
Here, take my book, eat food, and read with it. Yeah.
But that's pretty brave, and you have to be willing to be helpful. So I think one of the things that we can tell students is, if you want to call your local library, the chances are pretty good you're going to get a helpful person on the other end.
Yes.
And they're going to let you know all of the things that you can do in the library without getting arrested.
Yeah, please
Yes.
don't get arrested.
And, and help you out in any way that you can. And I have seen students who have successfully completed classes by using the textbook that's located in the library and just using it in the library. It takes a little bit of a dedication, and obviously your schedules have to match, but there's lots of options.
There are.
Okay. So, awesome. Amazing resources. So we talked about our databases, we talked about course guides, we talked about physical books, and you talked a little bit about, you cut me off already. You jumped the gun and talked about how students can reach out and talk to a librarian directly. So you did mention that they can make an appointment.
Yep.
Can you just give us a little bit more guidance on how they do that?
Absolutely. So this is our number one thing is when I see students, again, online and in person, I usually have my number one thing, the only thing that students have to learn, which is the library has stuff and there are people to help you use it. And it's the people that are the important part of that, really. The stuff's the stuff. But our job is to make sure that you are successful. And if that means that we will chat through the library's chat tool, and we have a professor who still to this day loves the story that we told about a couple of years ago now, when we had an Arcade Campus Center student who decided that the day the paper was due was the day to start it. So at 9 a.m. they chatted us and said, I need stuff for my paper. It's due by midnight. And so we spent the morning helping them find articles. Then they went quiet for a little while as they read and figured out how they wanted to say what they wanted to say. We passed this student off to the next librarian as they came on the desk. And by evening, the student was asking citation questions. It was a full day. And by the time we closed, back in the day, we closed at 9 p.m. We said, all right, you're on your own for the next 3 hours. I hope you've asked every question you needed to ask because we're gone. But we're good. We don't mind spending all day on a chat with you. We don't mind the phone calls. We encourage the phone calls. We encourage the come visit in person if we're local to you. New in the last year has been the ability to make a one-on-one appointment. Again, for in-campus students, they can come and say, I want to sit in your office and talk to you, but we'll Zoom. So I Zoomed this morning with a lovely student in Brooklyn.
Oh, nice.
Yes, indeed.
Nice.
So, and we can do this every week. I had a student one semester who we had a standing Wednesday Zoom.
Wow.
Yep.
Nice. You got me going on Brooklyn. The Timeout Market. Apple pancakes.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, they're good. Anyway, back to Genesee County. So you can help with, find an article. You can help with bigger picture stuff, all those kinds of good questions. And it sounds like start to finish.
Yes, 100%. And the scary questions, the I don't understand how citation works questions. And the chat, the email, you can send us your paper. We're happy to look it over. We will send it back with comments and say, here's what needs fixing.
Now, I'm going to put a little side note in there. We weren't going to talk about AI today, but one of the uses that I find for AI, I think that AI has to be used judiciously and carefully and cautiously. But one of the uses that I do find for it is that I could hand it something and say, can you format this in APA for me?
There you go. That is the thing that I have seen it do pretty well, actually. APA, Chicago, MLA, not terrible.
Yeah, and it does, I've so far I have not had anybody complain, so I assume that it's doing it correctly.
Or let's go with correct enough. How about that?
Yes, it looks pretty good. All right. Well, and I mean, these are the kinds of things that I think it's really important for students to hear, that librarians are not just there to point them to a database and say, okay, go, or here's a bookshelf, or,
No.
here's a whatever.
As a rule, we don't just leave you to, good luck with that. Usually my rule with students, and I tell them this, I said, you get 15 minutes of floundering. After 15 minutes, if you're still floundering, that is your moment.
Right.
Reach out, because quite frankly, if you flounder for 45 minutes, by that point, you're truly pissed off. And I don't really want to help you when you're pissed off. I'd much rather help you when you're just sort of sad about how it's not going well.
Yeah, that 15-minute rule is actually a really good rule for most subjects, like math. Okay, how many of us love math? Yeah. Okay, it's funny because I actually do like math, but if you're floundering with a math question, you set a little timer, and if that timer goes off after 15 minutes and you're still floundering with that math question, it's time to reach out for a tutor.
Oh, heck yes.
Yes. So same thing is true with the library. We got a nice 15-minute rule there. That'll work.
Yep.
That'll work. All right. Well, this has been really, really helpful. And I want to thank you for coming by and
Thanks for having
recording
me.
with us. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So breaking up that myth, the library is not a building. It's not a collection of papers with ink on them, stuffed together in shelves.
Dusty things.
Dusty
on a
things.
shelf.
Yes. And people going, shh.
Although I have been known to shush. And I have been known to be shushed.
Oh, I can't imagine anyone shushing you. Well, but sorry. So, the important thing in the library, the people.
The people.
The people. The people can show you how the databases work. They can show you how to connect things. They can show you how to find local resources. They can walk you through things step by step. So before we wrap up, is there any one thing that you'd like our online students to remember from all the things that we've talked about tonight?
That the library is not as hard as you think it is. That, like everything else in your life, with practice, you get better at stuff.
Oh, that is so true.
It is.
Yes.
People expect to be experts at the library on their first try, and I don't know, because I haven't met anyone yet who's usually an expert on anything on their first try.
That is true. That is so very true, and yet we kind of assume that. It's also true for things like note-taking.
Oh, yeah.
And test-taking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're not an expert just because you were born and had to take a test.
Yeah, there you go. So that's a wonderful piece of advice. So thanks again, Nicki, for being here.
Absolutely.
And thank you for everything that you do to support our students and do it with so much good nature and so much humor and so much fun.
Watching students be successful is really very, very rewarding. So I get paid in kind.
Awesome. And that brings us to the end of tonight's episode. And so with Nicki's help, we've talked about what the library can do for online students. We've talked about how academic databases work, course guides, and how you can use them to save a ton of time, and how to connect with a librarian when you need some help and, don't wander into that ocean all by yourself. So, big takeaway, the library isn't just for people who can walk in the door.
Nope.
It's for you, wherever you might be.
All of you.
Yes. So your challenge this week, pick something from tonight that you didn't know before. Try out a course guide, reach out to a librarian, maybe search those databases, take a little look, and just that one small step, right?
Do it. Do
it. Peer pressure from librarians.
Chat with a librarian. Tell them hi.
All right. Well, thank you, Nicki. And I'm Leigh from the online learning team, and thank you for listening to Study With Me. So make sure you do subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. We always have a good time, and we always have good advice, at least I hope. And until then, we were going to take one small step at a time, remembering our mantra with our podcast. And you remember it from last time, right?
I didn't know there was going to be a test. Progress.
Progress, not perfection.
Oh, please. I'm all about that.